Good morning, Bible friends. I'm going to come up with a different adjective every single day. Today is Thursday, June 18th, and it is the 18th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew that we will be looking at this morning. And some cool things are in this chapter. First of all, we haven't seen a parable before or since chapter 13, filled with parables. But in 18, we have another parable, the parable of the unforgiving servant. You remember that story? That's the one where he says for this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle his accounts with his slave. So he leaves his servant in charge of it all, and the servant punishes everybody. The guy owed him $10,000 talents and was brought to him, and he could not pay, so the Lord ordered him to be sold together with his wife and children, and all his possessions, and payment was to be made. And so the slave fell on both of his knees before him, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything." And out of pity for him, the Lord said, the slave released him and forgave the debt. But that same slave went out and came upon one of his other fellow slaves. You know the story? And he was not as the master was forgiving to him, but he wasn't forgiving or graceful to someone else. So that was part of that. You can't get into the kingdom of heaven if you don't show the mercy you've been shown to other people. Okay, I don't even know if I've done that. So, but June 18th is the 18th chapter, and they come to him and they ask, and I'm sure Peter is behind this. This just sounds like him. They come to him and they ask, "Lord, who is the greatest? Who is in?" And then Jesus brings a little child among them and says, "Unless you become like this humble child, you can't enter the kingdom. This is the greatest that we have." It really turned things on its head more than it would for us today. We think it's precious, like, oh, he brought a kid in there, so cute. Kids say the darndest things. They're so funny on YouTube and TV. We like to watch them. But back then, they had no status. And they were really asking about status. And status matters to people. It does. It's like, what's your status? What's your role? How important are you to this organization or this functionality? And when we get hung up on that stuff, Jesus says that we should just think again. And that's what he does with this example. We often come to Jesus. Hey, Jesus, how am I doing? Am I getting a gold star? Being a good person? And so we start this chapter with this whole question. How are we doing? Are we getting a gold star? And he ends it with this unmerciful slave. I don't know, it's got something to say. Aren't I the perfect example of a kingdom builder, Jesus? But the answer might surprise us. And I think that's what chapter 18 has to offer us, is this answer to who is important to the kingdom of God, who's the greatest among us. And he brings in the child, and then he tells the parable of the wicked slave. It's, you need to look again at how you use your power and how grace has been metered out to you, and that you should be the same for others. So the humble and the children get put into the center ring because they don't hold the same ambitions that you and I do. Their identity isn't attached to some kind of greater worldly point system. Their identity is a match on being loved. Children just need to be loved. They don't need status. They need to be loved. And then it's when they get older that they emerge these ideas. And I'm raising a teenager, so I know this. I'm seeing it. These ideas emerge in their head that, oh, I need this in order to count. I have to have 50 followers on Snapchat or TikTok or whatever. This matters, or else I don't have status. And Jesus is saying, yeah, the status thing is not so important to the kingdom of God. He's just trying to trying to let him get it. And the birds are trying to sing me out here. Jesus is just trying to make a point about what's important and what's not. And so he brings a child in and he tells a parable about a slave, and there's some other stuff in the chapter too. It's a long one. Enjoy. Have a good day.